16th of August 1989, Sydney, Australia. A new Boeing 747-400, the latest development of the 747 line, touches down at Sydney International Airport, having flown 18,001 kilometres from London in 20 hours, 9 minutes and 5 seconds, making it the longest non-stop airline flight in history. A major new milestone in world travel, recorded in the year of the 747's 21st birthday.
Welcome back to Switzer on Australia's Business Channel. Sitting next to me is Aussie icon businessman John Singleton. He's telling me his vision for the flying kangaroo on a day when Qantas got into bed with Emirates for 10 years. So, John, let's get back to it. You've been reported around June this year that you might be an interested buyer of Qantas with possibly Jeff Dixon and Mark Carnegie. Are you still a potential player?
Well, we have a little secret society meetings where we look at what's on the market and what's not.
And today you bought a pub today, the Marlborough in Newtown, for $12.150 million.
Yeah, probably can afford more pubs than we can airlines.
Yes.
But to have a substantive stake in Qantas, you can mount now a compelling case for it.
Yeah.
It's coming down to about where our expectations are, and we have been selling a lot of assets for the last 7 or 8 years, as you would have noted, TV, and all our Indonesian assets, and Lonely Planet and lingerie.
And you're no longer in Magic Millions?
No, we've nothing but selling. We haven't bought anything except pubs. As you know.
Yeah.
Well, they pay.
You wanted to own pubs that they couldn't kick you out of, isn't it? That was the philosophy, wasn't it?
Well, someone quoted that, and I couldn't deny it.
I just made that up. I didn't realise that, but knowing you, that's a pretty fair one. But okay.
But I think if a consortium were put together, I'd certainly be interested in investing a substantial amount of my net worth. I can't talk for Carnegie or Dixon, nor can I talk formally, because there's any one of a basket of companies that you think, gee, they're undervalued if they were run properly.
Yeah.
And Qantas is one. I'm just more attracted to Qantas at the moment because I'm back in the I never left the advertising world, really. But I'm amazed that in the first 3 years I've been back in business, this is my third advertising agency, has grown quicker than the first two.
Yeah.
And there's this
what's that called, the new agency?
Banjo. As in Banjo Patterson.
Yeah.
And Alan Johnston from Mojo is famous again since How's That with Kerry Packer, Come On Aussie, Come On. We got all the best young people around town, all under 30.
And some good old ones as well.
Oh, no, we just go past and say, good boys, good girls. Yeah?
Okay.
But it's interesting to meet the CEOs of these companies who are struggling they're not interested in that in the new media. They're interested, or they are, of course. They're interested more in finding out a group of people who understand advertising and marketing, who understand their brand, who can understand their customers.
Yeah.
And part of that, a tiny little part of it, is automatically advertising. They don't come to buy an ad. They want to buy more market share, more reputation, and part of that's advertising.
Yeah.
And that has not changed.
And because you want to buy assets, so you've said to me before that you always look for assets that are low in value. Through advertising, you can add value, can't you?
You can. And through and marketing, which advertising is always what the people see part of the marketing. And there are a couple of cases at the moment. The one you and I happen to be talking about is Qantas. It's poorly positioned, reputationally poor, service poor, morale poor, share price poor, and.
But you also say, John, if the product's not good enough, your advertiser's not going to sell a crook product. You don't think Qantas's product is that crook, it's not worth getting?
No, I think...
You think there's a small amount of tweaking?
Yes, and the people's morale, the staff morale, there's 20-odd unions. I think you've got to get those union leaders together and say, hey, we're going down the tubes here. We're number 2 or 3 airline in the world. For always. And now we're down here with the, risk your life airlines. I mean, we're all going to have to do this together. We'll look after you better. You're going to look after us better. What's the go? And they're human beings, they're Aussies just like us. They're very proud of Qantas. They were, they're not now. It's a turnaround situation that starts with the people. And if the staff and people is a service business, you turn them around. And remember, you can have all those staff, corporate, in-house nonsense as you want. The best way to get through to those staff, and Dixon was a postmaster at it, as was James Strong, is in the media. Like now they watch TV, so when they see Strong or they see Dixon or they see Pemberton, that was the best way to get to them. Now they see bad news, and they're out there now and they're hearing nothing but bad news. And if you turn the staff around at Qantas and gave them the same objective as the airline to be number 1 reputationally again, profit would automatically follow, share price and all those other things would follow.
Okay, let's have a look at the ad that you and...
Oh, not me.
Well, Alan Johnson has knocked up
Joey,
from Mojo.
Yeah,
you set him the challenge.
From Banjo.
Banjo.
He and I partners.
Okay, fine, yes.
I said, mate, what would you do? Moving on from I still call Australia home. And he sat in a room with a guitar, played it himself, and it's his voice reciting My Country, Dorothy Keller. And we had 9 scenes to work with. In half an hour, bang.
Okay, let's just show the product of this. Okay, let's go, guys.
I love a sunburnt country. A land of sweeping plains, of ragged mountain ranges, of droughts and flooding rains. I love her far horizons. I love her jewel sea, her beauty and her terror, the wide brown land for me. An opal-hearted country, a willful, lavish land. All you who have not loved her, you will not understand. Though earth holds many splendours, wherever I may go, I know to what brown country my homing thoughts will fly.
Well, what it does for me is it puts the tingle back in advertising, and that's what I guess separates ordinary from great advertising.
And also Qantas from ordinary airlines. Yeah. Qantas is part of our heritage, part of Australia, and there won't be one paper in Dubai saying Emirates links up with Qantas.
Yeah. Well, with the theme, John, I still call Dubai home work. Well, in many ways, I still call Australia home as more relevant now that we are going to be pop into Dubai more
You
often.
look ahead 10 years, unless we do something quick, you'll be flying Sydney to Melbourne Emirates too. And this isn't a new start for Qantas to tie up with Emirates, the beginning of the end.
Okay, so if you are able to wave the magic wand, what would you do at Qantas then? In a nutshell, just tell us what you do.
Well, everything starts at the top. You have to have I don't even know who's on the board just as well, but you have to have a chairman and a CEO and staff who want to take Qantas back to what it was only 8 years ago. Let's go back to where we were. Let's make this the number one airline in the world. And everything else will fall into place, I guarantee.
Now, what about the unions, the fact that it is a much more cost-competitive world than it was even when Jeff was there or James was there. How do you get the unions to buy into it, John?
Well, you've got to make the governments buy into it too. We can't have airlines flying here under this silly free trade agreement, paying slave labour wages and expecting Qantas to compete on Australian wages and conditions. So there has to be a departure tax or some kind of, we're going to have a mineral resort tax. Let's have a tax. We don't want to jeopardise tourism either. But let's charge these airlines to come to Australia. So that there's a balancing act, so their cost structure equals ours. We don't want to. We can be more productive in Australia. There's no doubt about that. And my buddies at Qantas, especially, they know they can work harder. They know they can put in more hours. They know they can be more productive. But at the same token, we can't expect them to compete with the $2 a day airlines. So there has to be some government incentive or disincentive for those airlines to fly here.
So you're arguing, for example, in the case of Emirates, that there's subsidisation of fuel.
They don't have to make any money whatsoever. They get free petrol. Same as we should get free electricity instead of having carbon tax. Get our coal miners to supply us all with free electricity. I haven't done the sums. But that would be the same sort of logic, and it would work. It would work for our industries and would work for Qantas.
Okay.
But we do need... It's not just leadership at Qantas and the unions, it's leadership of government as well to rise. Free trade's good, but on a level playing field.
Mate, thanks for joining us on the program.
Thanks, Pete.
And John's thoughts on an interview I did earlier this week will be in the Australian newspaper tomorrow, where he actually did elaborate on some other things. More controversially, I would have thought. Thanks again, John, for joining us on the program. Cheers, buddy.
Thanks, Pete.
Okay, after break, with all this talk about Chinese boom and the mining boom being over, my next guest says that the long-term place to put your money is in the share market.
to contact Sydney approach 124.4. 124 decimal 4, Kia 177. 57.
Sydney to 5 track now direct to confirm and maintain 5,000.
Ready for 1
Thank
That's 515, that's sorry, it's at 11210. 11210, quarter 515.
Qantas has had a good day on the market at long last, up almost 7% after a 10-year deal to co-fly with Emirates was signed off. But ad guru and professed Qantas tragic John Singleton says the CEO of the Flying Kangaroo is not up for the job, and he argues their ads stink. John, welcome to Switzer.
Well, colourful introduction, Pete.
Well, but this is basically what you think. You actually do believe, John, that the calibre of advertising and marketing does reflect on the leadership of any company.
It always does. And I guess, therefore, by saying that the advertising and marketing of Qantas has reached an all-time low, therefore it does reflect on Alan Joyce.
Yeah, and in a sense, the share price is there. And
today?
Not today. It kicked up today.
Went up today.
It went up today.
Would have got up more if they say we've given over all our management to Emirates because they know what they're doing and we don't.
Oh, that's a strong point. Now, I guess another question I should ask you then is if Qantas had been run the way you think Qantas should be run, would the deal with Emirates have been an essential thing, or could Qantas have been a standalone operation?
Well, Qantas has been run in my time through very powerful chairman and CEO teams, going back for Gary Pambert and James Strong, Margaret Jackson, Jeff Dixon. I mean, to them, a coach or an alliance wouldn't have been a headline. British Airways, American Airlines, they were helpful to Qantas. They didn't lift it out of the doldrums like we've seen Emirates do today. But today, I think Qantas we've seen, not that many years ago, we were told $5.60 a share was worth more than that. Now everyone's boastful is what's it got up to $1.06 or $1.10
or something like that. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. So, and we've seen by all the international measurements on performance, the same ones we've used for 30 years. The Qantas was always rated 1, 2 or 3 airline in the world. That's why I think you and me, Aussies, thought we can be the best in the world. Look at Qantas. And now we're rated below. This year has been going downhill for 10 years, the last 5 years off the cliff. We're down behind Garuda, we're down behind Turkish Airlines, we're certainly way behind Virgin and way behind Emirates, which is up where we used to be, we being Qantas. And it's reflected in the advertising, which I only commented upon to you because it has been, even though I was a small part of keeping it going, I can't take any credit for initiating it. And what I saw during the Olympics, those who use the Olympics well, such as Swiss, such as Telstra, then I saw those who wasted it, like Qantas. I thought, good God.
So you're talking about the new ad, and you're comparing it to the ad that you were associated with. I still call Australia home.
I didn't create it.
But you didn't create it.
I had enough brains to keep it going.
Yeah.
And certainly everything needs a new twist. But when the when you see Qantas personally, anecdotally, and then you see its market share, and then you see the research study of its product declining at such a rate, and then you see incompetent advertising, you wonder what the hell's happening.
Yeah, and you link that to management at the highest levels, that they want to associate their company with, to put it crudely, ads that stink.
Yeah, once you've got no comprehension of marketing or advertising or your customers, which is reflecting in advertising, then your product will inevitably go down. There's been no exceptions to that. You've only got to look at the Telstra we mentioned before. Telstra now has they understand their customers. David Thodey's taken over from the Amigos. The marketing's gone up, the market share's gone up, the share market's gone up. And
you don't think that's a coincidence? You think
no, it never is.
Sol Trujillo's gone with the three Amigos, as you call them?
Hopeless.
Hopeless.
Frank Blunt and Charlie Zoy, they were Yanks, so I'm not racist.
Yeah.
They came over when Optus had every chance. We had to vote. Do you want to switch to Optus? Everyone had a telecom horror story. They agreed like that, changed the name to Telstra, go the Australian route. Remember, this is Australia calling. And why sell ourselves down the river to the Singaporeans? And we want over 90% of the vote, and Telstra, Optus almost gone.
So the point you're making then is that the leadership then can be reflected in the calibre of the advertising. Can you give me an example of when, say for example, Dixon or Strong, what was leading Qantas, where they actually had input into advertising that showed that they got it?
Yeah, the day-to-day running of the advertising, they left to others. But when it came to the positioning of the brand, what Qantas stood for, both James Strong, who I didn't work with day-to-day, and Jeff Dixon, who I did at Ansett, then at Qantas, there wasn't a big ad that took part where he didn't dissect it scene by scene. There wasn't a time when I was on a flight with him where he didn't go and talk to the pilots, the hosties, the engineers, the baggage handlers. Now when I fly Qantas, you know, all they come up because they know somehow or other you've got something to do with Qantas and have had for a long time. And they say, can you get through to these blokes, being the chairman and the CEO, can you get through to these blokes, da-da-da-da.
So you're getting staff asking you...
Always.
Always?
You and I walk through baggage checking now, we walk through first class, economy class, we walk up the back of the plane, the front of the plane. I'll be stopped 4 or 5 times by people saying, what is going on with Qantas? And I know a lot of union officials and a lot of union members who are just drinking mates of mine, and they had real goodwill towards Qantas, and I've never known the ill will like this since the pilot strike.
But Dixon obviously had his battles with unions.
He did, but he did it in a worldly wagga wagga way. He'd sit down and say, now, what do you want, and here's what we want. And he had that hawky type quality of consensus.
Could talk the language.
Talk the language, sit down and say, well, here's what we've got to do. Here's my responsibilities, here's yours, how do we get together? And Jeff, James Strong, Gary Pemberton, they all have that worldly way about them. And now we've got, it's not Lee Clifford's fault because he's a...
Lee Clifford's the chairman, for people who don't know.
He's chairman, and well, people who don't know him. See, that's for a high-profile company, that's not good.
No.
And he comes from a mining background where he has 6 customers. Qantas has 36 million customers. So is that a wise choice? Then you get a CEO who's Irish for a start.
Not there's anything wrong with that.
No, not if it's Guinness. But when it's Australia's own airline, it's not helpful. And Alan, there were 3 superstars at Qantas under Dixon. There was Borghetti, look what he's done at Virgin. There was Peter Gregg, who's now gone to
Leighton's.
Wild King's old job. And heaven help him. And we had Alan Joyce, who was slash and burn man at Jetstar. So if you make a choice, you've only got to look at the share price of Qantas bang and Virgin up to know who made the right choice there. And when Borghetti comes on TV and he talks the brand, because it's no different to political advertising, we have such an inherent interest in Qantas, unlike any other brand, including Telstra. It's us. If it's good, we're good. Australia's good. We can be the best. It can be the best. So the inherent interest in the CEO is not paralleled by any other customer. When the CEO is wrong, and it's not Alan's fault, he was eligible, he got the job, but he always looks like he's just announcing a funeral. I mean, even tonight I heard him on, I haven't seen him, I heard him announce the Emirates thing. I thought, oh, my grandmother's recovered, but you know, I think the next stroke will get her, sort of.
Yeah.
It wasn't if it was John Borghetti, you go, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, look, reflecting on, you've known lots of CEOs and chairmen of major companies. They've been your clients over the years. Have there been many who are successful, who run away from the media, who aren't prepared to stand and talk about their companies?
No, there are most who are reluctant debutantes, but they realise it goes with the territory, increasingly. And it is the case in the world. I read the Steve Jobs book recently, which I don't read many books, but
yeah, a great book.
A great book.
Walter
there was
Isaacson,
a guy who was not made for a public profile, but he sat there in every design, from the logo through to the design of the product, through the design of the advertising, the commercial itself. He sat in it. There was one guy he trusted from Chiat and Day, an American advertising agency, who'd retired. He didn't care. He just wanted him at every meeting because he knew that if the packaging, the product didn't look right, didn't feel right, the advertising wasn't right, Apple could go under.
Yeah, you brought up the name Jobs, and Jobs is, when I read the book and analysed what he did, he understood customers, and in your game, your job is to understand customers even better than the people you work for, so your ad actually has great traction.
Yeah.
Are you then arguing that the ads we're seeing now are a reflection of that Qantas has lost contact with their customers? Is this the inherent argument?
Yeah, no idea. No idea.
So, no idea.
No idea of his customers, because if you look at the ads, you are the reason we fly. I think well, that's not the reason they fly at all, and no one believes it. It's nonsense. And now I believe Miranda Kerr's been signed as brand ambassador for the, well, what's the next, pole dancing. I mean, great for cosmetics, a great model, great role model, probably a lovely girl for cosmetics. Qantas, no, I don't think
it
so.
doesn't. You don't think it's a game changer, and obviously Qantas needs a game changer because they've gone to Emirates to improve their potential profitability. But you're saying it's more than just running off to another partner to improve things. The business has to be improved.
It's just symptomatic of their Qantas no longer means anything. Qantas' reputation, by every measurement we've used, the same measurements, every international airline uses it. We're down behind. As I said, being behind Garuda, Turkish, I never would have envisaged this could happen in my lifetime. To do that in the last 5, 6, 7 years, quite an achievement, almost impossible to do. And then to cling to the coattails of Emirates. And how many people think going to fly Emirates and then go back to Qantas? Well, I think the other way around. When British Airways think, wow, thank God I'm flying Qantas mainly, you know, British Airways. But now I think this is well, it's just grabbing hold of straws.
Okay, we're going to a break, John. We'll come back. We'll talk about other aspects of your view on Qantas, and also we'll show an ad that you've put together which you reckon shows them what they should be doing.
It took half an hour too.
It took half an hour, okay. After break.
So the other big story towards the end of the week was Qantas, which has been searching for a game changer for its loss-making international wing, and it may have found it. The alliance with Emirates announced on Thursday will see it move its Europe-bound hub from Singapore to Dubai and break the long-established partnership with British Airways. So I spoke to Qantas chief Alan Joyce at his Sydney headquarters. Alan Joyce, will the deal with Emirates help take Qantas's international division into profitability?
Yes, I think the international business last year lost over $450 million. $100 million of that was because of the industrial action. So the gap was around $350 million. We've already, with all of the other transformation items we've announced, have come up with $300 million in savings and benefits before this Emirates deal. So now we clearly see a path through to this business breaking even in financial year 15. We said from August 14 onwards. And it's on the path to get to its cost of capital with the domestic business. So we're very happy that this is a big step in the right direction for Qantas International.
In fact, do you think that Qantas International can make the same sort of profit margins that Emirates does?
Well, we look at our Qantas businesses as a group, and we do want to make sure that Qantas International goes back to profits, but it and domestic together recovers its cost of capital. And once we get there, those businesses will be producing equal or better results than Emirates because we have a very strong franchise in the domestic market.
Well, Emirates' most recent profit margin was 1.7%. If Qantas International earned that sort of margin, its profit would be $100 million, right?
It would, and as we said, you know, we do exceed our cost of capital in the domestic business. That business has not got the structural disadvantage that international has, or the issues around the Aussie dollar that international has. So we look at both businesses together in terms of what they need to get to return their cost of capital.
Now, how many flights will you be running into Europe under your brand, and how many under Emirates? And specifically, will you keep your Heathrow slots?
Yes, we are. So we have 2 flights a day to London that go through Singapore today. From the 1st of April, subject to regulatory approval, they will move to Dubai, still go through to London, but in Dubai they'll connect with Emirates' network to 33 destinations across Europe, including, you know, A380 services to 7 destinations, and the Qantas code will appear on that.
So how many services will you drop and transfer to Emirates?
We exit from the Frankfurt service, which is a big loss maker, but this is all about long-term growth, because what we're talking to Emirates about is when the 787s come for Qantas in 2016, how Qantas can use those aircraft through Dubai to start flying back to continental Europe. And we think there's great opportunities for us in the future to not only secure the jobs we have today, but also to actually grow our operation into continental Europe.
Isn't the most important point that it allows you to concentrate on Asia and reconfigure your network there so that it suits Asia rather than just being a stopover on the way to Europe?
It's a great point, Alan, and that's a real problem, a dilemma we have, because we had 2 equal problems, the European issue and Asia. And Asia was subsidiary to the kangaroo route in some ways, as we've been saying. So we were designing our schedules to Asia to connect to Europe, and that was actually losing the local Asian market. So for example, from Sydney to Singapore, we have 2 flights going very close together that are connecting into Europe. Now we're freed up to put those 2 flights at different timings to serve the local market, to connect to our partners in Asia, and to improve our proposition to Asia.
Wouldn't it be fair to say that without this deal with Emirates, Qantas International was going absolutely nowhere?
Well, I think Qantas to Europe and to Asia would have had problems around this deal with Emirates. We still have a great proposition to South America, North America, and to Africa and places like Japan. But you're absolutely right. This deal is very important for Qantas to be a viable competitor to Europe and to Asia, and we've made that very clear that we had to fix those 2 problems.
But you couldn't shut down your loss-making international division because you need it to serve the corporate market domestically, don't you?
Well, you are absolutely right on it, Alan. We know that our international business is very important to our domestic and frequent flyer business, so we've always said that we needed to fix it. That's why we gave ourselves that target. That's why we've been going through this 4-pillar strategy with the huge transformation that the business has been undergoing to get that business back to break even and then to a profit.
So what are your lawyers telling you are the odds that it'll be knocked back by the ACCC?
We believe that this is a very solid case for showing that the net detriments, there's no net detriments out of this, that this is going to be positive for competition. You know, we're already seeing the competition react to this with the rumours that were out there. We'll have competition adding more capacity, reacting to Qantas and Emirates working together. We have 28 carriers overall operating on the kangaroo route into Europe. There's huge competition out there. This enhances competition. It allows us to be competitive in this market against what other carriers are doing. And I think there's huge positive benefits in frequent flyers, in scheduling into Asia, scheduling on the Trans-Tasman that will be taking the ACCC through. It's a process we have to do with a number of regulators. We don't take it for granted. We know the regulators have to review it, but we think there's a very strong case for approval of this alliance.
Thanks for joining us, Alan Joyce.
Thanks, Alan. Thanks. Good to talk to you again.
Welcome back to the program. Well, Emirates says its 10-year deal with Qantas is a win-win for both carriers. Sky News business reporter James Duggan-Nixon spoke with the president of Emirates Airlines, Tim Clark, and began by asking if this deal was opportunistic given all the troubles facing Qantas International.
We don't look at it that way. We're looking at something that, as I said earlier, adds value to what we do. The notion that we should come together on the basis of the deal, the way it has been structured, as I said, it's a value proposition for both carriers. We certainly value Qantas coming through Dubai and maintaining its international operation, one, into the United Kingdom, two, that they should move to Dubai. We've always wanted to have Qantas in Dubai, and my principals have often expressed an interest in trying to get Qantas into Dubai. That's not to say that they should stop operating to Singapore, but I'm just saying it would be, they wanted Qantas to come. Now they're coming in a very large way with a couple of 380s northbound and a couple of 380s southbound per day. So it's great for Dubai. So yeah, it's a good fit. I don't think this is to the detriment of either carrier, and I'm sure it'll help Qantas as it reorganises its businesses within the Qantas group, and gives them the benefit and the time and the resource to be able to do things in other areas such as Asia that they're so keen to do.
This isn't the first time there have been talks, a dalliance, if you like, between both Emirates and Qantas. So what happened this time? Why is now different?
In the early years, and in fact goes back 16 years, we actually started with a co-chair with Qantas, which the management then wasn't particularly supportive of. Look, they have their own reasons, I'm not going to comment on that. What we have today is a completely different management. They are very forward-thinking, very internationalist in their thinking, and we are a very international-minded airline. There is a high degree of good chemistry between the two management groups, which helped this go to the level that it has done today. When we first met 4 months ago, I was surprised that it worked so well, and as I said earlier, the die was cast at the first meeting, because I realised, I think Alan did as well, that this could get traction in many other ways, to a far greater extent than we originally thought when we had the initial meeting. So no, it's something that I think is going to be very strong for both companies.
You talked about the instant meshing, if you like, between yourself and Mr. Joyce and your executive teams. It was a very quick negotiation process, but were there hiccups, or what were the sticking points?
Surprisingly not. One, it did surprise me the speed that it went, and it was because of the fact that there were no major hiccups, and that we were all determined to get this job done as soon as possible. And as we worked through a very complex set of arrangements, I think we signed almost a 200-page document this morning. The teams came together and there were no real problems, and every time there was a problem that might have been referred to Alan and myself together, we resolved them fairly quickly. And that was the beauty of the arrangement, because many of these arrangements in the past that we have done, or Qantas and other airlines have done, have been brought down by the detail, and this one wasn't in that category at all. It was a fine agreement.
Okay, now this is a draft decision, of course. Where to now, Rod Sims?
We get comments from those who are interested. I think it's 18th of January, at some time mid to late January, when we will get, when the deadline is for people to give us comments, and then we will aim to get a final decision out sometime in March 2013.
But it's very unlikely, given the way these draft determinations have gone in the past. It'd have to be a very strong objection for you not to proceed with the final tick.
Look, it would have to tell us something that we're not aware of now, that's right, Michael, and I think it's fair to say, while there's a lot of reservations amongst Qantas and Emirates competitors, none of them were outright, or very few of them, if any, were outright opposing the deal. So, look, that's fair to say. It would be surprising, but we'll keep an open mind on this. The whole point of putting out a draft determination is so that people can understand our thinking and see whether there's any flaws in that. So we'll be awaiting those submissions with keen interest.
Rod Sims from the ACCC, thank you very much for your time this morning.
Thank you, Michael.
Moving on to another topic, looking at the airlines. At the end of this month, you're expected to make a ruling on whether you'll approve Virgin's 60%, taking a 60% stake in Tiger. In December, you, in principle, approved the Emirates and Qantas tie-up. How concerned are you about consolidation in the airline industry, and how close an eye will you be keeping on it?
Well, they're two very separate issues, we think. The international aviation scene is very competitive. We looked at the Qantas Emirates tie-up on every single route that was relevant in Europe, Asia, America, South America even, and our judgment was that that tie-up wasn't going to cause a concern, so we've put out a draft determination that authorises that behaviour. We'll put out the final determination in March, but a very competitive sector. Domestically, the Virgin-Tiger merger is complicated. On the one hand, if the merger proceeds, Virgin will be in a much better position to take on Jetstar by using Tiger. On the other hand, it will be taking out the third player in our aviation market to do that. So there's a very complex equation there to weigh up. And we're busily working on that right now, Elise.
I'm sure no one envies your job. Rod Sims from the ACCC, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Elise.
Competition watchdogs granted conditional approval to a proposed tie-up between Qantas and Emirates. The ACCC now wants restrictions, though, on routes between Australia and New Zealand on the basis that they could negatively impact competition. It's also suggesting the alliance be authorised for 5 years. It says, given the dynamic nature of the aviation industry, it'll be necessary to review this pact sooner than 10 years. The determination's still in draft form, final decision slated for March.
The Transport Workers Union says it expects a decision by Qantas to axe its last international service out of Adelaide will cost jobs. The airline announced it'll stop its direct service between Adelaide and Singapore at the end of March as part of a national restructuring of its flights to Asia. The union says Qantas employees weren't warned about the changes and found out through the media.
They're shocked. One of my delegates said, I don't understand that. Qantas, those flights are coming in loaded. They're not empty, they're coming in fully loaded.
Why is it that other countries' airlines, Singapore, Emirates, a whole range of other airlines, are bringing more and more flights into Adelaide, yet our national carrier has abandoned Adelaide on international routes?
Senator Xenophon says he'll mount a fresh argument with the ACCC over the decision. Last week he appeared before the Commission to oppose a planned alliance between Qantas and Emirates.
Unions have launched a last-ditch effort to head off an airline partnership between Qantas and Emirates. They say the alliance, due to begin in April, will cost Australian jobs and tie our national security to Middle Eastern interests.
Qantas and Emirates are already taking bookings for their combined network, but today calls to stop the alliance before it gets off the ground.
If this deal with Qantas Emirates goes ahead, we will see a shrinking of the flying kangaroo and further job losses.
Unions calling it a bad deal for the economy, even raising questions of national security.
Handing over our national routes is putting our economic future into the hands of a Middle East carrier in a volatile part of the world.
The competition watchdog ACCC has already given initial approval to the partnership, but in a conference today it was revealed possible job losses weren't a big factor in its decision.
The only thing that this alliance will do, as it's proposed, is to send more Australian jobs offshore.
In a statement, Qantas said the tie-up with Emirates is backed by staff, government and customers, and part of a push to revive its loss-making international service.
We think the benefits of this arrangement are substantial, strongly in the consumer interest.
There's also still argument about how the deal will impact flights between Australia and New Zealand. The ACCC will make its final decision by the end of next month. Paul Kadak, 7 News.
For most of its history, Qantas has been unassailable, one of those iconic and much-loved Australian companies. But it's going through a tough time, with bitter industrial disputes last year causing management to briefly ground the airline. In the 4 years that Alan Joyce has been the CEO, the Qantas share price has halved. Today, the bad news continued, with the national carrier posting its first annual loss since it was fully privatised in the mid-90s. Qantas management is confident its strategy to get Qantas back in the black is on track, and shortly Alan Joyce will join me. But first, this report from Greg Hoy.
even announcing a 90% fall in net profit today and the first statutory loss for Qantas in 17 years. Alan Joyce was endeavouring to look on the bright side.
We are financially strong, profitable at an underlying level.
He blamed the large losses on the soaring dollar, fuel prices and the drag on profits of Qantas International. But Alan Joyce claims the airline is slowly turning the corner.
The benefits of our transformation program have started to come true.
So is the Qantas chief's air defence a fair defence?
We've got the first loss in 17 years for a management who's completely lost their way.
The reality is it is a statutory loss. That is the true result of the company, and we believe the management and board should be clearly accountable for the company's performance and its result.
And it's not just shareholders, it seems, concerned how Qantas portrays its profit and loss. Former senior Qantas executives have also voiced their concern to 7:30 about the credibility and transparency of Qantas accounts, endorsing the protests of others.
Why has it taken so long for everybody to realise that the international business of Qantas could well lose $500 million this year? It was 2 or 3 years ago they were saying it was losing $120 million. And really, no one really knows where the costs were being allocated.
We know that there are quite a few organisations and quite a few accountants going through the Qantas results, and it does appear that the disclosure is very difficult to understand.
There is also strong concern, including amongst former executives, that the airline tries to shift as many costs as it can away from its low-cost carrier Jetstar and onto the books of Qantas. The aim, the critics claim, is to bolster Qantas's campaign to slash labour costs and to boost that side of the business with the least government regulation.
They'll do pretty much whatever it is they have to keep Jetstar looking as profitable as it possibly can.
Aviation unions also claim Qantas cooks the books to enhance Jetstar and justify cutting staff or their conditions at Qantas. Qantas pilot Captain Brad Hodson.
The law does require them to really be transparent, and really I think we'd say at this particular point in time that's not the case.
They've put all these costs on their Jetstar expansion, operations that aren't successful overseas, onto their international Qantas arm, and they're trying to say that it's everybody's fault other than the executives who have paid themselves an 82% increase in executive pay in the last 3 years.
Dr Tony Webber was chief economist at the Qantas Group from 2004 until last year.
What I do think has happened is that Jetstar enjoys a number of services that they don't actually pay for, such as the legal department, corporate communications, investor relations, all of those overheads, back office overheads.
Dr Webber believes this is for accounting convenience rather than deliberate deception. Qantas now says it will split its domestic and international arms into separate management teams but under one corporate umbrella, leaving many suspicious about the transparency of Qantas accounts.
Until Qantas is split into 2 separate companies with 2 air operator certificates, just like Virgin is today, the Australian investment public will never know how the business is travelling.
With industrial tension still simmering, Alan Joyce has just offered to forego his bonuses that last year lifted his remuneration by around $2 million to almost $5 million, salting the wounds of Q catering staff in Adelaide, who say they've been in limbo for 6 months, waiting to hear when their jobs will be axed.
Many of them have been there for decades, finding their wages, their job security being slashed and burned. And to find Alan Joyce saying that he may forego a bonus, now he should be handing that $2 million back, and he should be taking a 62% decrease in income in line with what the shareholder value drop has been in the last 3 years.
Who would want to be the head of Qantas? Well, actually, while Qantas remains on the defensive, its key competitor, Virgin Australia, is on the attack. Qantas defector John Borghetti, who was overlooked for the chief executive's job that went to Alan Joyce, has now turned on his former employer with a vengeance as Virgin's chief, dragging the budget carrier up market.
He seems like he's doing a number on his good mate Alan Joyce at the moment. He's taking some market share away from him. He's expanding very, very quickly.
Qantas has pursued what we term risky ventures into Asia, Red Q, Jetstar Pacific. Pretty much most of those things, they spent a lot of money, but there's no return on capital there.
Aviation unions recently surveyed staff at Virgin and Qantas to ask if the right management was running the airline.
85% of employees do not have confidence in the direction that Qantas is taking. And when you compare that with their major competitor in the domestic market, Virgin, there's only 1.5% of employees at Virgin do not have confidence in their management.
But it's not just unions beginning to ask if Qantas should remain in the hands of current management.
Management have failed to articulate a clear path into the future.
Unfortunately, it appears the current management doesn't seem to have an answer for what's going on.
Private equity guys out there are looking at the numbers very, very closely. There might be an opportunity to buy and carve up Qantas, as they attempted to do a few years back.
And earlier today, I spoke to the Qantas Chief Executive, Alan Joyce. Alan Joyce, welcome again to the program.
Thanks, Lee. It's good to be here with you.
The question I'm sure passengers would like me to ask you is, what does a substantial loss like this mean for them? Will it make any difference to people who fly Qantas?
No, it won't. I mean, we're still investing very much for the future in Qantas. We're spending $1.9 billion for new aircraft this year and next year. We've gotten the fleet down to the lowest age it's been in some time, 8.3 years of age. We're investing in new lounges, new entertainment system. So that investment is a very important part of the turnaround that we're planning for the international and the domestic business.
A lot of people will remember the industrial action last year and the decision to shut down flights briefly. What's your internal research telling you about the impact that that's had on customer attitudes and customer loyalty?
Yeah, customer loyalty for the premium Qantas brand is as strong as it's ever been. We're seeing that customer advocacy, which is people's impressions of Qantas when they fly, people's impressions of our product and our service, is at the highest levels it's ever been. So we're very confident that we're in a very good position in terms of customer loyalty, in terms of customer focus, and in terms of where the brand is positioned.
If that's the case, then why is it that in the Skytrax World Airline Awards, which surveyed millions of passengers worldwide, Qantas dropped from 8th to 15th on the list of the world's best airlines? And why is it also that tens of thousands of your frequent flyers took up a deal with Virgin to transfer their status across there?
Well, I think one of the things that's there's plenty of surveys out there around the world in terms of different research to rate the airlines, and we've won with the travel agency community Best Airline of the Year again for I think the 4th or 5th year in a row. We've won other awards for being the best airline. Even in Skytrax we won the best airport lounges. So there's plenty of different information out there.
So you don't accept there has been any brand damage done by what's gone on over the past year?
Absolutely. We believe that our brand is healthier, and our own
no damage at all.
Our own internal customer advocacy shows that it's actually at the strength, its best strength it's been, the best ratings that we've ever seen. And of course, you know, for us it's very important that we measure a whole series of dimensions about the Qantas brand. We measure the dimensions about our safety reputation, we measure dimensions about being an iconic brand, and they're back to the healthy levels they were before the action.
For quite a while we've been hearing from Qantas that your domestic business is really strong but your international business is struggling. Why then does Qantas not say, alright, there's other airlines around the world that have advantages we don't have that allow them to be profitable internationally, we simply aren't, and so we're not going to put eggs into that basket?
Well, the international business is a business that has been impacted by two things in particular. First of all is high fuel prices, which is impacting nearly every long-haul carrier around the world. We've seen big losses by a lot of big carriers now being reported in the last 6 months, and a lot of those carriers are going through their own restructuring program. We have the added problem of the high Australian dollar, because before the global financial crisis, an average that's $70 to the US dollar, now it's 105. and most of our competitors are competing in US dollars, so that's a 50% increase in our cost base. So for us, we do have those challenges.
But isn't the problem that these challenges you're facing, the high dollar, the global downturn, the high fuel prices, nobody expects those things to resolve in the short term. In fact, they could be things that are here to stay for quite a while. We've also got the issue that Australia is just geographically at the end of the line. Those are things that really Qantas is never going to be able to overcome. They're here to stay, and there are other airlines that can cope much better with those factors.
Well, we've said that we have a comprehensive plan to make sure that Qantas does adapt to the current market situations, the high fuel price, the high Australian dollar, and we have to adapt to that.
But I'm just wondering why. Like, why do you want to stay and expand in that area of the market when you do have these really difficult challenges, yet you've got this domestic market that works really well for you?
Well, we do believe that the international business is a key part of what we do.
And
the
why?
International business, it does link to domestic, it does link to frequent flyer. Those businesses do need a strong international operation. And we do believe that there's no silver bullet to fix international. It means a lot of hard work. We've outlined our 4-pillar strategy last year. We're busily implementing that strategy. We've announced a huge amount of transformation, closing down heavy maintenance base, catering centres to make that business efficient, doing new deals with new partners around the world, like American Airlines to Dallas, which is going very well, LAN to South America. We are working very heavily on the customer product, the new aircraft, the fuel-efficient aircraft, and we are working on expanding our operation into key markets.
The Transport Workers Union says that there are 19 separate industrial agreements up for renegotiation that have the potential to disrupt Qantas operations. Do passengers need to be worried about further inconvenience?
Well, we have a huge amount of agreements that are coming up all the time, and we work through the vast majority of those and continue to work through them. I think there's 54 agreements with 14 different unions, and nearly every other month is one agreement that we do. And I think
so that sounds like a lot of potential for disruption.
No, it isn't. But a lot of businesses are like this, and a lot of businesses have to work through them. I think it's sad that some of the union leaders are out there trying to continually damage the Qantas brand, trying to continuously damage the business, and trying to continually damage their members' jobs in the organisation. I think that's sad.
But why would they be motivated by that?
But I think there's people out there that obviously have their own agendas and are pursuing their own agendas. My focus is on turning this great business, Qantas International business, around to have the same success with that business that we had with domestic, with Jetstar and frequent flyer. And we won't be distracted by the noises that some of people out there, the armchair drivers, will make. Our focus is on delivering on what's sensible for our employees, our customers and our shareholders.
Alan, Joyce, thank you very much.
Thanks, Lee.
I'm just a gigolo, everywhere I go, people know the pop I'm playing, paid for every dance, selling each romance, ooh, what to say, and there'll come a day when youth will pass away, and what would they say about me, when the end comes I know they'll say just a gigolo, love goes on without me. I'm just a gigolo, and everywhere I go, people know the part I'm playing. Paid for every dance, selling each romance. Ooh, what to say? And there'll come a day when youth will pass away, stop as you come. And what would they say about me? When the end comes, I know there's just a gigolo. Life goes on without me, because yes, and nobody cares for me. Listen, nobody cares for me. I'm so sad and lonely, sad and lonely, sad and lonely. For some sweet darling, come take a chance with me, 'cause I ain't sorry. Sing it. I'm sweet little souls. Oh, out of town. Somebody vote, yes. I ain't got nobody. Oh, yes, nobody cares for me. Listen, nobody cares for me. Nobody cares, yeah. does you pop. And ya nobody, oh yes, nobody cares for me. Listen, nobody cares for me. On Saturday, well, so sweet darling, come take a chance with me, 'cause I ain't so bad.